Okay, so we are live on Facebook. And if this is your first time here, I am Heather with Savvy Agent. And my special guest today is Ivy Ellerby of Feng Shui It, which I love. I love your company name. So, Ivy, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got into feng shui, and then I'll go do that multitasking thing of sharing this post on Facebook and in a couple of groups to get people on with us.
Okay, that sounds good. So I am Ivy Ellerby. I am a feng shui consultant, among many other things. I'm also an author of Feng Shui for the Mind, Body, and Soul. And I actually was introduced to feng shui as a child. My mom is actually the first person that introduced me to feng shui. She was kind of the person in the family who was the new age one. She was the weird one in the family that everybody kind of whispered about when we walked out of the room. And they're like, yeah, that's my weird sister, and that's my mom. And so a lot of things that she introduced me to with feng shui, I I just thought it was normal. I thought everyone's parents were teaching them these types of things. My family has a lot of Cherokee in our family as well. And so there's a lot of Native American practices that were passed down as well that, again, I thought were just plain old regular things that everybody did. It wasn't until I was in high school that I realized everyone's parents weren't teaching them this stuff. And so I kind of started tucking it away because it started, we were the weird ones, and who wants to be the weird ones during adolescence? And so I kind of got away from everything. And it wasn't until 2014, I was in a very bad automobile accident. I was in 4 head-on collisions, not 1, but 4.
Whoa.
Someone was texting and driving, and he ran into the back of me, and he didn't notice that all of us were at a stop, and he shot me into oncoming traffic. So we did 1 hit, car spun, 1 hit, car spun, and so on. And so it was through that I ended up having just a long period of time, not only learning how to physically get healed, but just to learn to walk again. And so I couldn't go back to my old job. I couldn't work anymore. And so, because that requires standing and sitting, and I couldn't do any of that stuff for any long periods of time because I had to elevate my leg. And both legs got crushed in the car, but what they call a dashboard injury, but only one got severely injured. And so I was determined that I was going to learn to walk again. So then I learned to walk again. And of course, that journey, little things, right? And I ended up having a profound limp. And the doctors basically told me just to be glad I was alive, be glad you got a limp, be glad you can deal with this. And that didn't work for me because I was, I was 30 something and I had a young child, and I didn't sign up for that in life. So I decided to start looking at other holistic and natural practices to get me back to 100% health. And so Western medicine couldn't do it. So I started looking towards Eastern medicine and acupuncture and cranial sacral therapies and energy work and aromatherapy and all these kind of things, massage therapy, just a lot of practices that I knew about that I had kind of gotten away from. And I decided, let's give it a shot. I had nothing to lose and I only had everything to gain. And so that's what I did. Well, in this recovery period, I realized if I'm going through this, there are probably lots of people in the world that are going through the exact same thing. And they're being told to just kind of deal with these health problems and get past it. Fast forward, I ended up having a wonderful mentor that had kept encouraging me to look at feng shui, but this was for a whole nother reason. This was, this was something for my child that had been born prematurely. This was totally unrelated. This book was in my bookcase. It made me go back and pick it up and go, what was this? And it was Feng Shui and Health. And so then my wheels started turning and I started going, there might be something to this Feng Shui stuff. So I decided, since I couldn't go anywhere and I couldn't stand up and I couldn't do anything that I used to do of my former life, I decided to get certified in Feng Shui. So I just studied and studied and studied, and it just clicked with me. It was just like a natural progression for me. It was my tap on the shoulder from the universe ended up being an entire career change. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to me looking back at it. And so that's how I got into Feng Shui. And I took it and I ran with it and made it my own and added it with, I started my company, which is Eastern Design and Home Staging. And so I combined Feng Shui elements with home staging elements just to get houses sold a little bit quicker. We want them sold in less than 30 days. And and just regular staging wasn't doing it. And so we needed to, in some of these places, we needed to shift the energy. So we added the elements of Feng Shui, and well, the rest is history.
Okay, so everybody probably has like a vague idea of what Feng Shui actually is. Like, you know, in my mind, they're old Chinese secrets of rules. And, you know, to your point of going to Eastern medicine to heal yourself, you know, I think everybody probably rolls their eyes a little bit at something like that. But I had a dog who had cancer, and I didn't want to put her through chemotherapy. And so I thought, well, to hell with Western medicine. Let's see what the Eastern medicine has to say. And I want all of the Chinese herbs, right? So, you know, ultimately that did not work out in my favor, but it is what it is. It was a dog, you know? So, but as it relates to Feng Shui, like, you know, I mean, I guess I think that there's probably just rules to follow. So paint your front door red, or, you know, maybe that's all I know. I think, isn't there like you have 4 segments or sections of a room, and so you put your wastebasket in one section so that all the money doesn't go into the wastebasket. You keep a money tree by the back door so that the money doesn't see these. I know more than enough to be dangerous. So dumb it down for us. What is Feng Shui for the people who think like me?
And I love this because this is so, you know, 21st century thinking, because this is what we do. We Google things. We find out just enough information that we feel like we know it, but we're dangerous with it, right? It's like, I got a cold. What does, you know, WebMD say about this symptom? And it's like 25 diseases, right? I'm like, oh my God, you're going to die tomorrow. And it's just a cold.
Right.
So Feng Shui is the art of placement. Okay, it's literally, it was just plain old good planning that thousands of years ago when the Chinese came up with this, because this is a Chinese practice. And basically what they did was they had these really smart Chinamen would go around land looking for places to put important buildings, to put burial sites, and to eventually it evolved into placing farms and houses and things like that. It was just really common sense building. If there's a mountain behind you and the wind blows this way, it's going to help your house not to blow down. If you are beside a river and the river is going to flood in this season, because we've observed it happening, you know, for hundreds of years, don't build your house inside the curve of the river. You know,
good advice.
Right. If you bury your loved ones at the top of the hill and it's monsoon season, well, their bodies are going to wash up and flood down the hill and taint your garden. So this was just
morbid
really
advice.
Right. But it was very practical, and it was for disease control and things like that, you know, just to make you have a good relationship with you and the land. That's all it was really about. You know, today we have a lot of woo-woo-isms, I call it, and that's Feng Shui gets thrown into woo-woo-ism a lot. People think it's really mystical and it's really kind of odd and strange, and really it was just very smart thinking, and it was just through thousands of years of observations. And so lucky for us, after all these thousands of years of observations, we have a really good set of rules that we can follow to shift energy in places.
Okay.
Now, when we're talking about shifting energy in places, that's kind of a big concept for a lot of people to completely understand, but we're going to break it down a little bit easier. Think of it in terms of this. Everything around you is energy. Your table is energy. Your computer is energy. Okay, this is just plain old atoms. This is stuff you learn in like second and third grade, right? Like they're moving fast, slow, according if it's solid, you know, liquid or gas or plasma.
Sure.
So everything is energy. Your body is full of energy. You have energetic impulses in your body. That's what keeps your heart beating. Things like this are happening. We don't question it. We don't think it's woo-woo. It's just regular life. Well, what we have learned through all these years of observations is not only does the person have an energetic pulse or sending out frequencies of energy, your table is sending out energy, which means your house is also sending out certain energetic vibrations. Your land is sending out a completely different energetic vibration. So when we place all these different energies together, how do we make sure that they are in harmony? How do we make sure that your land and your home will support your human body? And that's just what, well, that's why you hire a really smart Feng Shui consultant to look at energy placement and energy balance. And that's all I really do. I just look at each location, each place, whether it's an office or a home, and I look at what is the energy doing and what can we change to shift the energy to, in a lot of cases, especially in real estate, to get the house sold for that next forever family. And so it's just fixing that vibration to fit the next person coming in, or to support the person that's already there. And so it's not so complicated or woo when you think about it in terms of just plain old science. Energy
So
exists.
when it comes to like, we all unfortunately get those listings that just will not sell. Oh my gosh. I have one right now, and I don't even need to go into it because everybody knows exactly
Right.
how that is. So, like what are, like, do you have what is the most common thing that you find yourself correcting, or like maybe is there a most common thing that everybody does wrong and is an easy fix, or like a top three, like just.
Absolutely. The thing that I find most, especially working with the agents and brokers that I work with, is that most homes, especially if the families are still living in the home,
Uh-huh.
there's just too much stuff. Okay. This is beyond the staging and moving and putting the chair here and asking the families, please, go ahead and pack up some of this stuff because you got too much stuff. You guys are saying it to the clients. We come in and we're going, oh my gosh, please, you got to get rid of some of this stuff. But it's
Right.
not just because it's an eyesore. It's an energetic stopper. It will stop the energy of flowing, so that when people are walking in, not only are they getting the impression, oh my God, this place is a junk pile, but they're also saying they're not able to see the bones of the house. They're not able to see that beautiful window because it's got a huge couch blocking it. They don't see the view because the windows are filthy. So the biggest thing that I see is clutter, 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 and dirt. Just
Clean
plain old
your houses.
clean your house. And that's the basic thing. Even with my clients that I do staging with, that's the number one thing, again, in combination, is I tell them, if you're really trying to sell this house, get a pod, pack it up, go get a storage unit, pack it up, sell it, give it away, trash it. But you've got to get this stuff out of the house. Actually set your intention to move. And show the universe and show the person that's wanting to come in and buy your new home, your old home and their new home, that I'm really out the door. It's yours. You can have it. And so clutter is the biggest thing, because not only does it stop you visually, it stops you energetically as well.
Amen. You are preaching to the choir, because anybody
Yes.
watching this knows that clutter has got to go. So,
Right.
okay, what about, have you ever been to a house where you're like, the juju in here is just terrible? So like just a house that made you feel terrible, and can you fix that?
Mm-hmm.
Can you fix the bad
Yeah, I can.
house?
It's really funny because there's a lot of houses. I do virtual services, but I also do services that are in person. And if you ever come with me at these houses, you'll notice I always stop right at the doorway first. And when I stop at this doorway, I'm taking a reading of the energy of the house, because I'm deciding whether or not I need to walk in, if it's safe for me to walk in. Now, what do I mean by safe? Or do I think daggers are going to fly out the sky? No, this is not like some kind of freaky horror movie. It's nothing like that. But you have these areas that a lot of times humans will walk into, even though we have a bad feeling that something bad is going to happen. Like we'll walk down an alleyway going to our car because our car is parked across that corner, and we go, oh no, we're fine, I'm fine, my car's just around that corner. But you're speeding up, you're holding your keys really tight, you're kind of holding your breath, you're really vigilant. We will walk into spaces all the time, even though we sense danger. We're the only animals on the planet that do that. Other animals have a startle response. They stop, they freeze, or they hide. Not us. We're stupid.
Yeah.
We will go into a space even though it feels bad. The same thing is true with these homes. I don't go into homes that don't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, I'm going to do some things first to either protect myself, or I'm going to talk with the client outside, and we're going to figure out another point of entry or some things that we can do prior to going out. But I don't just walk into a place because it feels bad.
So like,
because my job
to protect yourself, are you going to wear like a necklace of garlic? Maybe Feng Shui doesn't have anything to do with vampires. I might be cross-contaminating.
Right. No. I'm definitely not going to wear any garlic because it smells horrible. It tastes really good in my spaghetti and my pastas, but it would smell terrible on me. But there's things that I can do. So you'll see sometimes people are burning sage or incense or things like that. that's something that's really common that you accept that people do all the time. They burn incense, but you don't really know why they're doing it. Well, it's because it's helping with the energetic shift of an area. Sage does the same thing. It's just an herb that you burn, and it's used like an incense. So I may do that. I have different necklaces that I may wear that's like a little crystal or something like. It's nothing really that you're going to pay attention to and be like, oh Lord, here comes the woo girl. Like, I don't stand out like a sore thumb. It would freak my kid out. So so it's not anything like that, but it's really also just looking at the power of intention, being able to protect myself walking in. So it's kind of like, if you know what you're walking into, you can prepare yourself. Think of like if your boss is calling you into a meeting and you know it's not going to be a good conversation. If you can kind of have a minute to kind of prep yourself before you're walking in, it's the same thing that I'm doing. It's just,
I would bring my purse with me. I'm not going to have to go back to my desk for my purse. I'll just take it with me.
Right. But there's things we do versus if you're being blindsided by this same kind of forceful, angry energy in these bad conversations, we're like, whoa, you should have given me a minute to be prepared for that. I just can feel it before I walk in, and I prepare myself the same way you would if you're walking into a major argument or conversation that would be a little bit uncomfortable. And so I kind of suit myself up and get ready to walk into, these homes, because it could be someone that's just really, really ill and really, really sick. Well, that has a different feeling. You know what that feeling is. You've been into a hospital before. You know when it feels like this is an area full of sick people. It feels different than when you walk into your local department store.
Sure.
Again, these are not things that are woo-woo or strange. These are things you experience every day. You just don't think about it in terms of the way that I think about it. Okay. I'm very aware when I'm walking in that this feels different than when I walk into another space. And so, there are houses that I walk into and I'm going, oh boy, we got a bunch of work to do.
So do you know what the feeling is? Like, would you know that, in 1985, somebody died here, or, that there's a water source underneath the house that has too much energy? I know we talked about that the other day, but like, do you know what those certain things feel like, or is it just, okay, well, this isn't good, so we need to fix it?
Well, absolutely. I know. I have a more enhanced intuitive ability, and that's not Feng Shui necessarily. Although you'll find that most Feng Shui consultants have this ability because it just simply makes the work a lot easier. Okay. I can walk into an area and tell if something feels like someone's passed in this home, or I can walk into an area and say, oh, these people fight all the time. Like it feels different to me. It's the same way again, like when I say, you can feel when you walk into a hospital versus when you walk into a department store. It feels different. It's just I've practiced and tuned myself to be able to pick up on what that feels like instantly.
Okay. Now, I know that, so you're in South Carolina, right? Or North Carolina, or like on the line?
I'm South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay. So you're about to get pummeled by a hurricane, in case anybody is watching. Ivy is kind enough to, like, is it sunny there today still?
We have sun coming in. You can see the clouds from the femur bands starting to come in. It's the calm before the storm right now for us. North Carolina's getting hammered. It's starting to get windy, but it's still pretty outside, but it feels reasonable. It's only 90 degrees now, which is normally it feels like 400 degrees. So that's the only pleasant thing about the hurricane. Right.
Oh, goodness. Well, so the reason I asked where you work is because I know that you work both in person and virtually. So I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. And, if I have a vacant listing or a listing that's not selling, I could call you, and you wouldn't necessarily have to fly to see me. You could just help me over the internet, or like, how does that work when you work? Because I know you work with people all over the place. So just kind of give us a clue and how do you feel things? Like, can you feel things through video?
Well, there's a lot of clues that I use. It's kind of like being a good investigator, right? Okay. You're going to look for a lot of different pieces of evidence. I'm going to pull up the listing. If there's photographs like on a Zillow or Realtor.com or any of these listing sites, I'm going to ask for those pictures and get an idea, because not only am I looking at the Feng Shui from that, I'm looking at the staging of it. Because if this property has been sitting, and we know that the price is right, and we know that the house looks good, and we know that everything is right, except it's just not moving, the only thing we have left to look at is the energetic components. So I'm going to give you pointers on not only on the energy component, I'm going to say, like with staging, I don't really like that that table's there, because what it's doing is it's kind of shifting attention to X, Y, Z. Because again, this is in Western medicine, in Western world, excuse me, in the Western world, we just consider this good psychology, right?
Okay.
And that's what my educational background is in psychology from college. And so it's just good psychology to not put a big red table in the front of the room as soon as you're walking in, if you're wanting them to look at the windows, right? Because we don't want to diverge their attention. We wanted them to look at the bones of the house and be able to imagine themselves. We don't want them looking at the other person's stuff. We want them looking at the house, imagining it with their stuff. And so there's sometimes I can give pointers and say, I don't like what your stagers did with this, or maybe you need to hire a stager and get some of this old furniture out. It's not really working for the vibe of the house. But when there's distance consultations with my clients, basically they shoot me an email over and say, hey, we need to schedule an appointment. I've got a listing. It's not moving. Normally they're calling me 30 days too late. They're calling me 90 days, 120 days, where they're getting threatened to have the property removed from them, and or either the seller doesn't want to sell anymore or whatever. So they're calling me because they're panicked. Yeah. And at that point, I'm going to look at the pictures. I'm going to ask for a copy of the floor plan if there's one available. If not, I'm going to ask you to go and sketch one, because for Feng Shui, we need that floor plan to be able to look at where everything is located in correlation to the entrances and doorways and things like that.
Okay.
I'm going to ask for a floor plan. And then we have a consultation on the telephone. And so I'll actually tell you, on this corner of the room where the kitchen stove is, I need you to add a mirror here. I need you to add, take out the purple pillows that's here. Let's add white pillows here to make this room look larger. I'm going to tell you, move the bed out from in front of the window. Let's put the bed out of the doorway and in front of the window, and let's move it over to the side a little bit. It'll feel different when you walk in.
Okay.
And so it's just really going to be when I'm consulting with someone that's selling a home, the advice that I'm giving you is very tangible. It's very hands-on. I don't expect you to become me and understand why I'm saying it. All you know is you need to move the bed from this wall to this wall, and it's going to make this room feel better.
Right.
You're going to know that at the front door, if I tell you to add 2 plants on both sides of the store, you're going to do it, and it's going to change the energy, but you don't have to understand that. Sure. You just have to just put the plant there and see what the response is. And so it's very simple. It's very easy for you on your end, because I did all the heavy lifting.
And so I think that's key. So for somebody who maybe is a real estate agent and they are open to or believe in the principles of Feng Shui, but their client is a naysayer maybe, then, you just change your words. And instead of saying, I'm getting a Feng Shui expert in to handle this, I've got a virtual stager who's going to help us reframe the property or reposition the property to present it to blah, blah, blah. You all know what I'm talking about. So are sellers sometimes a trick to work with when the agent has hired you? Or does the seller hire you? Did I lose everybody?
No, I do have some personal clients are the sellers that are saying my agent's not getting this property moved. What do I need to do? Because I need this house sold. I've got 2 mortgages. I can't afford this.
Okay.
And they'll hire me and they'll just go, I don't care. Just fix it. A lot of times I'm the secret hidden weapon behind the scenes for most homes that are being sold, especially for, in some properties, some people believe in it. In other properties, they're terrified of it. And I would tell you, never, ever, ever tell them that you've hired a Feng Shui consultant. You have to know who it is. But now if it's, an Asian market, they're not going to buy a home until it has been Feng Shui. Like they want to know this, because in this part of the world, it's a big deal. And so that's actually a pointer to say, well, actually we had a Feng Shui consultant.
That's a good point.
Instantly they're like, ooh, that's good. Yeah. So like in our markets, like in our international, markets across the country, like California or New York, Florida actually had an influx about 5 years ago, which was weird because you never would think of Asian in Florida. Well, hello there. Yeah. I have agreement there. And so Florida had a big influx for a while there of Asian buyers buying commercial properties. And that was really, really important. But there's a lot of major buildings that are in the country that have been, Feng Shuied, and you just don't know that it's been Feng Shuied because it's not a selling point. It's just an energetic shift to make it feel good. So again, saying I've got this stager taking a second look at it, who cares that I'm adding Feng Shui with it? Let's get the property sold. Let's sell this thing and, keep the price high.
Okay. So if you have I have a little list of questions here that I'm looking at. So if you have a vacant listing, and I mean, staging is expensive. So if you have a vacant listing and maybe you don't have the budget to spend $1,000+ a month to have somebody come in and furnish it, how do you feel about virtual furnishing? So like there are services out there that will redo the photographs. They'll render a new photograph that has, cool trendy furniture in it. So does that mess up with like a weird photographic feng shui of the house? Like, does it give off bad vibes online? I don't even know where I'm going with this.
No, that's a great question. No, it's a great question. Actually, no, it's not. It's not going to change anything about the appearance of the home, because remember, again, we're talking about energy. Every one of you have had a listing that when you walk into that house, you look at it, the house looks great. You're going, this house is beautiful. Everything's been redone. It looks good, but something just feels off. You've walked into places before, even if it's not a listing, you've walked into places that you look around and you're going, everything looks fine, it looks safe, but something kind of makes me feel uneasy. And that's the energetic component. But you wouldn't feel that looking at a picture. You would feel that once you're walking in.
Okay.
So I'm kind of the secret weapon if you're having the feedback, not if you're getting the traffic online, but if you're having the feedback from when people are walking into this home, they're absolutely in love until they walk in the door. And then they say, I don't know what it is. Like, it's the perfect size house. It's the perfect price. It's the neighborhood. It's got the perfect yard. The kitchen is great. The bathrooms are fantastic. I just don't have a clue what's wrong. It's energy. If you can't see it and you can't put your fingers on it, it's always going to be energy.
Okay. So let's say I have this vacant house and I can't seem to sell it. And I call you to do a virtual consultation with me.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to have to do weird things? Like, am I going to have to do a rain dance in front of the house? Like,
Well, the weirdest thing, and this is, this is going to be for those properties that you're already aware of, like the person's, it's maybe an elderly couple who the spouse passed away. You're going to know when that kind of stuff happens because they tell you this stuff.
Okay.
For the most part, most of the things that, like, this lady selling because her husband just died last week. And they're going to say, did he die in the house? That's like the first question. And of course your answer is no, he didn't die in the house. Right. We don't want to scare him to death. The weirdest thing I might ask you to do is sometimes I'll say, hang like a little crystal, like a faceted crystal somewhere to kind of expand the energy of the space. I might tell you, it might do well to do something like burning sage. And sage is something you can buy this stuff in Walmart now. Like, it's not even hard to find anymore.
Okay.
You can buy it off of Amazon. Normally, if I'm telling you to do something like this, I'm shipping it out to you. And I'm just going to say, hey, here's an incense of sage. I want you to burn it here. Or here's actually a bundle of sage. Literally get a lighter and light it. And it's nothing complicated that I'm going to ask you to do. If you're uncomfortable doing anything like that, we can still do energetic shifts. It's just one of these things that it's according to how quickly you want to move the energy. If there's something really, really heavy that we need to do some heavier lifting, then yeah, I would ask you to burn some incense or something like that. Otherwise, no, it's really not going to be you doing anything at all. 95% of my consultations with agents and brokers, they do nothing at all. They are simply they are the person that's showing me the pictures, talking to me about the history of the house. They're my connection point. Then I'm coming back and I'm actually telling them about the house. I'm telling them the stuff they don't know about the house. And if the house has a request energetically, which is a whole nother day's topic, if there's something energetic that we need to do to assist the house, I'm going to just give you the information and we'll figure out a way that we can do it that you're comfortable with, that I'm comfortable with. Because if you got a showing at 5 o'clock, I'm not going to tell you to sage the place at 2 o'clock because it's going to smell terrible. Okay. And so it'll scare people. So we can't do these kinds of things. So we have to, it might just be, we need to throw some flowers on this, on this island in the kitchen to kind of shift the energy there. And really, really simple, easy things that you can do. Just something, it's information that would be a good stager's job to tell you, that I'm kind of giving you more information based on an energetic level versus on a just physical aesthetic level.
Okay. Can Feng Shui change your life? For example, my dear friend, one of my dearest friends, I would sometimes tell you she's a little cray, but I love her. And she swears by this. So she and her husband, they were having hard times. And this was many years ago. They were having hard times and, like never had enough money. And so, she had a front door that was facing south. And so she painted her front door red. Her husband got a red truck and he also parked, in the front of the house, which was on the south side of the house. And there might've been like something else red that was in the yard. So there was a lot of red on the south side of the house. And like that, she credits that, or maybe I'm just remembering her crediting that, but regardless, can that change your life? Like, would having a red door and a red truck and something red in the front of your house, if it faces south, would that bring you financial fortune?
Not necessarily. It's one of these things that Feng Shui is very individualized. It's not just a cookie cutter plan. The biggest problem that I have with explaining Feng Shui to people that are not familiar with the concepts of it is to first start off by saying that there are different schools of Feng Shui. There are different ways of achieving energetic balance within a house. So when you're talking about north and south and east and west and using compasses, which is called like the Lupan, it's a real fancy little Chinese compass. These are going to be more of our classical Feng Shui practices. In the West, you have a tendency to see more black hat sect, which is more of a Buddhist Feng Shui school. And it's going to have principles that are a little bit easier for Westerners to understand, because you have to remember, Feng Shui is just really an extension of Chinese medicine. So for us to even consider just the concept of qi, which is energy, we don't even really have a direct word that translates to what qi is in English.
Okay.
We say it's an energetic life force. We say it's the energy. It's like prana if you practice Ayurvedic or Indian medicine. Prana, qi, it's all the same thing. It's this life force. But we don't have a word to describe it. So we're asking Westerners who have a very linear way of thinking to expand and think now from a completely different dimension for something that's not just by itself. When we're looking at the incorporation of Feng Shui originally, it was an incorporation and extension of Chinese medicine. So you were looking at acupuncture as well. You were looking at using herbs. You were looking at all of these various belief systems that were put into place. So to circle back around to answer your question, no, painting a red door is not necessarily, because you could have other components that are going on around you from an energy standpoint that don't make sense. If your house is up on a hill, maybe that's not the right color for you. Maybe there could be a police station across the street or a fire station across the street. We might want to change the energy that's coming from that direction to your front door. So we may not want to put red there because or a hospital. We might not want that energy to be attracted to that front door to enter your house. So there's lots of if, whens, buts, might, maybes. There's no definitive answer. And so the problem is that when you're reading one or two things and you're like, oh yeah, painted my front door red. Well, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to really hurt anything, but it's also not going to be as auspicious or as lucky for that person as it would be someone else, because maybe their house, it's pointing south and your house is pointing south, but they've got a whole different level of components that are going on around that house. But Feng Shui can change your life. It can increase your abundance. It can increase your health. It can increase your relationships. It can do all of that. And so it's important to have someone that really knows what they're talking about and doing, which is why it's worth the expense of having a real consultant versus a do-it-yourself, because it would take years of studying to be able to understand these concepts. Okay. And even then, you're still learning.
So expense, you just said it's worth the expense. So like if somebody wanted to hire you, is it going to cost them a whole commission check, or like what could they expect as far as pricing goes?
Well, it's according to what we're doing. My most popular service with agents, which is the energetic clearing, being able to read what's going on in the house. I also give you insight on pricing. If I think the pricing is, if you raise it a little bit, I think you're going to get more hits. And this is all, again, from an intuitive standpoint. That package, it's on my website. And I've got a whole list of services on my website. But that one is that most agents use is about $350. Oh. Now, it's according to the listing. Now, if you're trying to sell a $4 million house, of course you don't care about spending $350 because you want that sold. But if you're selling a house, I live in South Carolina. Real estate here is very inexpensive.
Yep.
So the agent could be selling a house that's $150,000. Well, spending $350 is not going to be necessarily the best bang for your buck. You know, and so it's that sliding scale. You have to decide, is this that house that you really are going to be able to, you know, sit back on your heels this month after you sell this one, or
Right.
is this just kind of like it's just going to pay the light bill this week? So
Good point. Good point.
you have to decide which listing it is. And the other thing is you have to decide if your client will be willing to pay for it, because a lot of times the clients will just say, sure, I'm willing to get another opinion about the house. And because they know they can write it off on taxes, because I'm a staging company. So I can give them a receipt, and that's considered for the advertising portion of the home, and it's a complete tax write-off for them. So,
Okay.
because they're selling the house. So it's ways of getting around it and being able to use exactly what you want. But $350 is normally the package that is sufficient to do all the stuff that I'm talking about.
Okay. That sounds very reasonable, affordable, and non-scary, because when you're thinking, oh geez, switching the energy out of this house, that's got to cost a fortune.
Well,
so it's
and
nice to know that it doesn't.
Yeah, and there are some things that I do that are, they're big dollar prices, but it's not for you. You're not living there. You're selling the house.
Right.
So that will be different than versus I'm working with you one-on-one for your own personal things. Like if I was functioning your office, that's a completely different thing than us trying to just sell the office.
So I wonder if everybody in general should like put crystals in their house, and like
never a bad idea. Never a bad idea. Never, ever, ever a bad idea.
Where does one get crystals?
Oh, you can get crystals from anywhere, but you can just contact me and I'll send you good quality crystals, because and I get them wholesale, so you won't pay nearly what you'll pay in retail stores. But you can just email me, and you have my email address. You can post that.
Well, and this is a good segue, because when I spoke with Ivy preparing for this call, I said, well, do you have like a Feng Shui guide or some sort of something that they could download? And she said, well, actually, what I'd like to do is offer a 20-minute consultation for free to anybody who references this Savvy Agent call. So guys, like 20 minutes of Ivy's time, that's a pretty big deal. And I think that's an incredible offer. And thank you so much for extending that. I hope people take you up on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whether you're putting crystals in your own house or in your listings, or
right. Yeah. You can use it for your own house if you want to. If you want to talk to me about your own office, ways of supporting, increasing sales or increasing being able to connect to people. Absolutely. You can use that for that. And you can just even go to the website and just go to the contact page. You don't have to type in an email address, just send that and it'll come straight to my inbox. And so you'll be able to get in contact with me. I'm not hard to find. I mean, it's really good and easy.
Well, and we will actually put a link in the comments here to your website, Feng Shui It. And I might have to do that when we're done talking, because it seems internet is running pretty slow here. So we'll put a link to your website in the post, and anybody can contact you there. You also probably have a Facebook page. We can link to that in the post as well. So yes, Ivy is very easy to reach. And if you mention that you watch this video, you can get a 20-minute free consultation, which is, I mean, that's a pretty good freebie, I would say. Yeah. So I had a question and then I forgot it. Is there anything Feng Shui can do for my memory?
Well, we don't have a section in our home that's for memory, but we do have things for supporting health and wellness and overall balance in all of the areas of your life. So yeah, we can get around the memory thing.
Oh, I remember, because when we were preparing for our call, I had asked you, oh, can Feng Shui make me skinny? And so we were talking at that point about manifesting and I think intentions. And so that all of this, I mean, it's all kind of woo, right? So if I have a vacant listing, can I just manifest it to sell?
You absolutely can. You absolutely can. And that's a whole nother ball game, right? Like, so that's completely separate from Feng Shui, but it's still all in alignment with Feng Shui, because again, these manifestations and intentions are still energy. This is stuff coming from your brain that you're sending out to a universal belief, a universal consciousness. And so that's something else that I work on with my one-on-one clients, is we work on a lot of intention and manifestation work. And so in our conversation yesterday, I was telling you, I have a little video on my YouTube channel about Feng Shui and weight loss. What can it do to support it? But also when we're talking about these beliefs that we have that either serve us or they don't serve us. And manifestation, when you're talking about, especially in this industry, yeah, you can be that amazing, multi-million-dollar agent and broker very, very, very easily by simply making those intentions known, focusing on it. Spend 10, 15 minutes a day in meditation. That's not much to be able to get into alignment with your true self. Every one of us are here in order to have fun and to have amazing, abundant lives. There is no scarcity. That's a lie. It's a fib. It's something that we've been conditioned to believe for so many years. From the time that we have babies, we teach them limitations in life unconsciously, because it's just stuff that's been taught to us that we pass down. And so, yeah, it's very easy work to be able to work with someone to get them into alignment so that they are very easily making these sales. It's not about action, it's about alignment. And that's a big difference.
Right. And bringing it back to that energy, if your energy is negative, that, oh my God, I'm never going to get this listing. Oh my God, I'm terrible. Oh, I can't believe no one would ever choose me over so-and-so. Then, well, that is your destiny. So
you're always going to get that, because that's what you're saying. And what you put out is what you bring back every time.
Absolutely. So I think that is an excellent lesson in addition to all of the Feng Shui. I mean, I still know just enough to be dangerous about Feng Shui after our time today, but now at least I know who to call to solve all of that when I have that vacant listing that will not sell. So, and
think about me like electricity. You don't have to know how it works in order to turn the light switch on. Same thing.
That's true.
I don't know how my car works, but I know when I press the button, it cranks and I go.
That's
so here's what the engine does.
Yep. Excellent. Well, Ivy, let me double check here to see if we had any questions. And I think that we have answered everything that has come through. So I will post your contact information below this video. And so if somebody's watching this in replay and they're like, well, I have a question, then of course you can comment on this post and we will get an answer for you. Or you can go through and click on those links and contact Ivy directly. Tell her you saw this on Savvy Agent, and you'll have a 20-minute free consultation call with her. So, Ivy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. How much
taking your mind off of hurricane flow and, grab a life vest. It sounds like you're going to need it for over the next
few years. Well, she's slowing down, so she just wants to give us all her water. She doesn't want to die down, so she's just churning in the ocean very slowly. So
she can stay there, especially if it cools you guys down at 90 degrees. I mean, at 90 degrees, I'm like a sweat factory. So if that's what you consider cool,
it's disgusting here. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. The humidity, it's terrible.
Yep. Excellent. Well, go enjoy the nice weather while you can. Everybody who's watching this, thanks so much for joining us today. And I hope everybody goes and sells a house today. And if you don't, call Ivy for some Feng Shui.
That's right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.